Hi, welcome back to dev.log. In today's episode, we're going to be covering series updates, callbacks, OAuths, and upcoming. So kind of going to the series updates, as you've probably seen the gaps in between each episode. I'm in and out, sadly, with things in life and just being busy. So I have some updates to the series that I just want to discuss about. That first one being videos will still continue to be released on Fridays. The major change with that is that videos will be made bi-weekly, though I have been working to optimize making these videos and making like these, in this case, PowerPoint slides, all the like animation presentation work, make that a bit quicker and other areas, but it still takes me sadly a bit of time to pull all the content I need together and try to formulate it in a way that is interesting or explains what primarily I've been doing in the log process. So I just need a bit more time to make the main videos, as well as I would like to try to make shorts here and there and be able to release those. Most of them at this point will be related to the previous episodes. Just try to get different formats out there of the videos and try to make them shorter, or that's part of the major update. And then I will also try to be better about actually updating about if there's not going to be a video or not, if something does come up. So just passing out updates through YouTube posts. That's pretty much where the series is going to. I do like making these videos. Again, it just takes a chunk of time to make them. So diving right in, we're going to go into what the primary work I've done over the past couple of weeks. One of the things is callback. So if you don't know what a callback function is, a function passed into another function as an argument, which is then invoked inside the outer function to complete some kind of routine or action. I know it's a big bunch of harble jarble, but it's basically just functions that are called when something else happens. So in our case, we're kind of just passing in the functions in our AuthJS so as another parameter or parameter object for callbacks. Here we have about 3 different functions that we need to call as callbacks. Big, long, this is only a portion of the file, but these are the callbacks. It's quite large. So diving right into it with the sign-in function callback, we are initially passing in as arguments for the sign-in a user and an account. We're using the account in a way to check if it's what kind of provider it is, if it's like an OAuth provider or if it's traditional credentials. In this case, we're checking if the provider is not equal to credentials, we return true. So if it's Google, if it's Discord, if it's GitHub, any other OAuth, basically, if it's not credentials, then it's good. So then we just return true there. And then we take the next step. If it is a credentials, that this is just to make sure when we use user and the ID that we don't get any errors. So it's wrapped in this if statement, pass in the user, and we say also pass in the user ID to check that. And then we use the user ID in this case to get the existing user using our query function for getting the user by ID. And then using the existing user, we run it through an if statement saying if the not existing user with email verified. So if the email is not verified or the email is equal to null, so if it's basically undefined or null, then we're going to return false. That's basically how that if statement is. Then moving down more, if the existing user has two-factor authentication enabled, then we're going to say await get the two-factor confirmation by user ID. So we're just getting that, again, another database query. And then we're going to say, hey, if there's not a two-factor confirmation, return false. If not, then we're going to await get the reference and query for to delete the two-factor confirmation in this case. We then can return true. So that's primarily the sign-in function, callbacks that happen when you initially sign in. And in another video, because I did all this stuff at once, so the next video is kind of tied in with this one. It's like a two-parter kind of, where I have a whole list of tokens basically I create for different aspects. Dive into more in the next video or devlog, but that's kind of what we're using here to check if, again, the email is verified, if verification is there, as well as two-factor confirmation to confirm for two-factor authentication. So that's what this callback is used for. Bit make more sense in the next episode on understanding the tokens. But moving forward to JW2, which is a token type that we're using for getting sessions and stuff like that. We're going to cover this one first and go back up to the sessions function, just because this then ties into where the sessions works with. But first of all, pass in a token, and then we put in an if statement saying if there's not a token sub, the sub is basically the user ID. It's just how the token is delivered. That is what it's classified as. So that's why you have to put .sub. So if there's not a user ID, basically, we're going to return the token. But if there is a user ID, then we're going to use that sub to basically get the existing user. And then we're going to check again, is there existing user? If not, then we're going to return the token. So if there is a user, then what's going to happen is we're going to set token.role. We're going to set that to existing user.role. So that's basically adding another field, because we don't technically right now have in the token a role object, and we also don't have the username object. So again, we're adding this onto the token, which then we can pass onto the session. That's how AuthJS works, is that they have the token, but then gets also then transformed into the session. But we're adding it initially here, so then we can put it into the session. Then that can be used throughout the app for getting user information, like the user's username or the type of role that they have. Once we add that stuff, then we can say return token. I do have a commented out log just for checking the token in the terminal. So now moving back up to the session function here, we're taking that token, we're passing it in, as well as we passing in the session object. But we're first going to say if the token ID and the session user, then we're going to set the session user .id to the token ID. And then moving forward, we're going to do basically the same thing again, but we're going to set the token role to the session role. And then we just need them to not get errors. We make sure that it's admin or user. Those are just the two types that we have. We just had to set it there because that was just the easiest way to be able to fix the error that I was running into, where it would say, hey, there's a problem. It would still work, but it just constantly have that kind of like, hey, there's a problem here, when it's not really a problem. And then lastly, again, we're going to do the same thing, but with usernames, where again, we're going to set the session username to be the token username. We're going to just change it so it's a string. And then lastly, we're going to return the session. Once again, there's a console log for checking the session, again, matching things up and seeing it, but that's just for if I need to check it. So it's commented out, and then we just return the session. So that's the session function. So overall, that is the callbacks that we're using. Moving forward into OAuth, I now have all the OAuth set up. I discussed a bunch of the OAuth and getting the buttons in previous episodes, so go check out them. But now, as you can see, we have it. So when you click on them, it goes to each of the OAuth providers and they all work. I'm not going to show how all that was set up because you have to go on each platform and they have their own ways. Again, there's plenty of tutorials out there on YouTube on showing you how to do that, but I'm just explaining that I've gotten them all set up now. Again, they work the same way. So again, now with both of the buttons, primarily for AuthJS, this is the main information that is just needed to pass through. We just need to pass in the ID, and the client ID, and client secret for Google, GitHub, but all that is set up a little bit differently through each of the platforms that you have to go to. So you have to go to Google to set it up, or go to GitHub to set it up, or Discord to set up the OAuth. Plenty of tutorials out there explaining more how to do this, but basically this is just setting up. And then I just have a little note there, as you can see, that I need to go in later when I'm actually deploying it to set, authorized domains. So again, there's added security and making sure that, it's using the right website. So what's upcoming? Next devlog, we're going to be covering verification, 2FA, and forgot password. And they're all using the same general mechanism of basically having these per se tokens that we're going to be using to be able to verify or use the 2FA or forgot password. All that will be explained in the next devlog because I've already technically done it at this point. And then lastly, we're going to be developing the settings page. That will probably be not in next devlog, but it's something just upcoming down the line that you will see. So thank you all for watching today's video. And if you have any suggestions or anything improvements, please leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. And if you want to see more, subscribe.